Question?
What basically is a vector? How many types of vectors exist, and what is the difference between them?
Okay, in vector psychology, we have 8 vectors. We have 4, you can say, top, which is eyes, visual, nose, which is olfactory, mouth, it's oral, and ears, it's audio. Now, dermal, it's one of the bottom ones, but we call it bottom because most of your body is dermal, even if you have skin on your face, but still. So dermal, we use it as a, you can say it's one of the bottom vectors, because top vectors, it's more your, they different from the bottom ones, it's dermal. You have also muscular vector, the muscles, anal and urethral, and there is also difference between top and the bottom, but we'll talk about that. So it's 8. Now vector, we call it vector, but it's actually, in people, it's like orifices. It's like hole where your energy can be exchanged, and it's connected to your personality. Eyes outside, your brain outside, and visual, and it makes you extrovert outside, versus audio, energy goes in, very introvert person, audio. And one of the biggest reason audio is introvert, when he watched us in the tribe at night, he was sitting by himself, focusing on the sound. And imagine if you would be screaming, loud, laughing, we're gonna be eaten by wild animals. You had to be this kind of introvert person. And now vectors, it's not just people's personality, it's also, as I see, the universe also goes, evolution stages goes by vectors. And I think even animals and everything else, they also have their vectors. Sometimes you can see a dog so happy that he so emotional that it even lose its consciousness. Did you see it happen? That's definitely visual vector. This only can happen in visual, that emotional vector. So now evolution also goes stages of the vector. For example, audio vector, it's our first vector on the bridge toward human. For example, when we sapiens, we lived in tribe and not humans yet, and vectors started to evolutionize us. And for example, he sits by himself at night. Melatonin usually produces during the day, night hormone, help him to fall asleep. So he stays by himself looking at the stars, and suddenly, maybe it was raining day or something, and he thinks maybe to build some roof. And that first idea that jumped into his mind, that triggered that first idea, that's what first step toward humans, because animals, they don't think. So that first idea, that audio vector, started to look at the stars by himself. That focus, born the idea, helped to start evolutionize us. So that first idea makes us, helps us to become humans. Now, in universe, when before the Big Bang, let's say, before anything existed, probably was a sound first. Before the matter came, the material, it was a sound. The material maybe was whatever, approaching, black hole. So sound, that's the audio vector. That's the first one in that spectrum. That's the first vector. and it starts from there. That's why they more, you can say, intelligent, more. So that sound, after the sound, then material came, the matter. So that's dermal. Everything you see, it has bark of the tree, or shell of the nut, or banana peel. It has the skin, and gives them its shape. Person's skin gives us shape, right? Mm-hmm. So the shape of all the materials, matter, and living creatures, that's our dermal vector in the vector spectrum, in the vector system. And further, and then anal, and then, fist. First person needed fist, it's anal. Yes, sphincters, and fist was necessary to hold the stone axe. So this way you can use the stone axe. Only in anal, those sphincters, it's like fist, 12 sphincters you have, which is work like a fist. So when he goes through stress, they tense, and he has stomach issues, stuttering, cannot talk, or it's usually anal or oral. Dermal, usually they don't have these problems. And heart problems, sphincters, and arrhythmia, everything goes through sphincters in this vector. Constipation, cannot go to restroom, or is diarrhea, all these problems is anal sphincters, because first fist it did. It was necessary to evolution of that stone axe that we could hold. So every vector gave it that step toward evolution. And that's how we were evolutionized. So vectors, it's not just personality. And person has all 8 of them, but one is dominant, dermal or whatever, audio. Then comes secondary, maybe third, but the rest you don't really feel, and you cannot improve your vectors and change your vectors. You cannot do nothing with that. That's it. That's why you think, if you heard people don't change, you heard about that? Even if you're gonna do surgery to a person and change his sex from male to female, still gonna be the same vector. It's visual vector boys that we can talk maybe next one. And even if we have other lives, reincarnation and all that, probably vector stays the same. How you explain Mozart, 4 years old, he starts to write symphonies. He wasn't even 5. Einstein, probably they had also audio vector in past life, and that energy kind of transferred, but I'm not gonna go too deep on that. I don't like to talk those things that you cannot really see, touch, and prove. So probably that's what I say. You understand?
Yeah.
So 8 vectors, it's a system. Every vector has its dominant and secondary. You can tell the personality once you know the second. Maybe the third one, but that's it. It's closed. You can close with 3. The rest, cannot be improved. You cannot do much with them. Maybe even if you improve, your personality will be of the dominant vector. If your mouth is sensitive, it's going to be oral vector either way. Even if you have dermal, your oral vector, your mouth will be sensitive either way. We had this vector because we needed somebody, so we're not going to get poisoned from the food and berries. So somebody had to have the sensitive mouth. And so every vector has its sensitive part of the body, like erogenous zone, you can say. And it needs to stimulate it sometimes. For example, that oral, or it needs to talk a lot, or laugh a lot, or jokes, make up stories, and eat all the. He has to stimulate his mouth. He has to do oral vector. It's like a clown sometimes, or cook. he could be a great cook because he can feel the taste, and you understand. And audio, it has different role, so it's all also for survival. All these vectors, this way the tribe will survive tomorrow. We needed every vector to be different and has its fulfill its role in the tribe. You understand?
Yeah.